Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Oh, let's see what we have today. First topic, letting go of past and future. A peaceful and effective life is waiting for those who undertake the not-so-easy work required to live in the eternal now. This publisher's desk is based upon interactions with Hindu families visiting our Hawaii monastery who were trying to practice meditation. Almost always they ask the same question, which is that when I sit for meditation, I am unable to control my thoughts. In response, I wrote this publisher's desk, which gives 5 suggestions for controlling thoughts based upon what kind of thought it is. So the idea is we're classifying our thoughts to one of 5 categories, then we're applying certain tools or techniques based upon what category the thought is in. Many individuals find that when they sit down to meditate, their mind is constantly thinking about past and future events. They find that their mental power is seriously dispersed rather than being intensely focused. Though less obvious, this can also happen when we visit a temple. Gurudeva gave an insightful description of this phenomenon. How many times have you gone to the temple without being fully there? Part of you is there, part of you is living in the past, part of you is trying to live in the future. And there you were, emoting over the things that happened that should never have happened, and fearful of things that might happen in the future, which probably won't happen unless you continue being fearful of their happening until you create them. So that's an important point, if you haven't thought about it, that if we think about something a lot, we create it. Not if we just have passing thoughts, but if we think about something a lot, we can actually create it or attract it to us. Focusing the mind, controlling our thoughts is clearly central to successful meditation. The fact that Patanjali chose this subject for the 2nd verse of his Yoga Sutras affirms its centrality to the meditative process. Yoga is the restraint of the mind's activities. In verse 12 he states, the restraint of these activities is achieved through practice and attainment. The restraint of these activities is achieved through practice and detachment. In other words, we can reduce the mind's tendency to be constantly thinking about past and future through certain practices. Beyond helping us be successful in meditation, focused mind benefits us in other ways. With a focused mind, you will be more successful in our outer activities at work. Another plus is that a focused mind is a peaceful, contented mind. From that peaceful platform, we can turn within and more easily contact our intuition, our superconscious mind, the inner voice, and utilize the wisdom and creativity it provides. A good way to measure the level of mental distraction you are experiencing is to walk outdoors with young children. They will always notice many more details of the surrounding than you because their minds are not yet drawn to past and future concerns. Having established the goal, a focused mind, a mind that is not constantly wandering into the past and future, what are some specific techniques we can apply to harness our thoughts? Let's look first at how we can conquer unnecessary thoughts about the past. Often we think about the past because they are not resolved. Often we think about past events because they are not resolved. They are events that we do not fully understand or accept. Reconciling the past gives freedom and clarity, as Patanjali explained. When the limbs of yoga are practiced, impurities dwindle and radiant knowledge manifests, leading to discrimination as to their difference. In handling thoughts about the past, it is helpful to distinguish between recent unresolved events and those that happened some time ago. And the questions to you, first one here, how can we control thoughts about the recent past? The subconscious mind will, for some weeks, throw up present, recent events to the conscious mind many times a day. This is clear indication that an experience is unresolved. After a few weeks, the subconscious will stop its frequent reminders and suppress the experience. So that's a good thing. Otherwise, what would happen if all the unresolved experiences of recent past were still in the mind? We'd become non-functional, right? So it's good that the subconscious mind suppresses it after a while. It's like vacuuming the rug on a regular basis. Suppressed experiences accumulate in the subconscious, creating an anxious, troubled nature. So they don't go away, they're just suppressed. It is good, therefore, to act to resolve each experience while this reminding process is going on, rather than to simply wait it out and forget about the happening. It often works to seek a resolution to the matter by discussing it with those involved. If we have hurt the feelings of others, an apology may be appropriate. If our feelings have been hurt, then we may need to forgive others. In such ways, the emotional component of the experience can be diffused and the matter resolved. Next question. How can we control thoughts about the distant past? That one's easy. Unresolved experiences that happened some time ago will also come to mind, but less frequently than recent ones. It is usually no longer appropriate to apologize or seek apology, as the other parties would not understand why we are bringing up the matter after such a long time. A good alternative is to write down anything from your past that concerns you and burn the paper, holding the intent that the memory will be neutralized. If you were successful with your subconscious journaling, you will still remember, but without the attending emotions. So Vasanada Tantra. There's our Vasanada Tantra urn there. If you haven't been to Kwayadinam and seen it, it's right near the entrance. And there's even local neighbors that come and burn their past thoughts there. People we don't even know by name. They just come. There's a sign that explains it, and they understand what to do, so they just come and burn away. So it's community service. Another question. This is a really good question. How can we solve the problem of not being able to forgive someone? How can we solve the problem of not being able to forgive someone? They shouldn't have done that to me. Resolving the past may be more of a challenge than one expects. A common problem is an inability to forgive someone, such as an abusive father or husband, for how they treated us. A helpful philosophical approach is to focus on the law of karma by affirming that something we did in the past caused those experiences to come to us in the present. So we created it. Father was simply the means through which that karma was experienced. Rather than continuing the unproductive pattern of blaming him, we can inwardly thank him for providing us the opportunity to face our difficult karmas. It is amazing how a simple change in our attitude towards such a thing can transform our reaction to it. How can we control negative anticipations about the future? Many such thoughts fall into the category of worry. We are concerned that certain events may happen, sometimes to the extent of becoming fearful. A remedy that Gurudeva stressed is to employ a simple affirmation. When the mind starts to worry, say to yourself, I'm all right right now. Keep repeating this affirmation until you are convinced that everything is fine in the present moment. So affirmations can be used to eliminate generalized worries. How can we control constantly thinking about a major decision without coming to a conclusion? An example would be sorting out the pros and cons of 3 job offers. Common practice is to ponder the decision often, but without thinking it through and reaching a conclusion, instead jumping each time to another topic. Hence it becomes a source of worry. An effective way to dispatch the matter is to make a formal appointment with yourself at a time you are free to focus on it fully. For example, 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. If you find yourself mulling it over before then, discipline your mind by affirming, I have an appointment on Saturday to decide this matter, and therefore there is no need to think about it right now. So you make an appointment when you definitely have enough time to think it through thoroughly. If it comes up before then, you dismiss it. These and other techniques can be used to focus the mind in the present rather than dwelling on the past or the future. Once the strong pulls of past and future have been subdued, we can concentrate on reducing the miscellaneous thoughts about current concerns, such as plans for the day or the news we saw on TV last night. And the question to you, how can we control thoughts about current concerns? These can be restrained by practicing pranayama, breath control. As we know, our basic breath control is breathe in for 9 counts, hold 1 count, breathe out for 9 counts, and hold 1 count. After breathing in this way for a few minutes, your thinking process will naturally calm down. When we manage to center our mind in the present and quiet the cacophony of miscellaneous thoughts, we experience a higher state of consciousness. Gurudeva refers to this as the eternal now. Here's a comment from him on the nature of the eternal now. The mind lives in the past and the mind tries to live in the future. But when you quiet your mind, you live in the present. You are living within your soul, or the higher state of your mind, which is undisturbed by the things of time. Then we have some Shum words for our Shum scholars. Shum word is BC. Eternity of the moment felt in the middle of 3 days in the past and 3 days in the future. BC means I am aware of the unreality of time. Have you noticed that any concern you might carry always bears upon the past or the future. To dissolve any concern, therefore, all one has to do is guide awareness to the present. So that's the whole point of our exercise here. Letting go of past and future, being in the present. Living in the moment in the center of 3 days in the past and 3 days in the future is the spirit of BC. Used as a greeting, meaning we meet in the eternity of the moment. Here Gurudev is talking about restraining thinking about past and future. 3 days in the past, 3 days in the future is a useful term to think about things. We're still dealing with things that happened recently and we're planning for the immediate future. So most of those thoughts are positive. Sometimes he says 4 or 4.5 days. Same idea. So it's a good way to harness our thinking process to just a couple days in the past and a couple days in the future. It's easier to quiet our mind when that's what we've been doing throughout the day. One of the abilities available to us once we have freed ourselves of vexations of past and future is to clearly see patterns in our life and in the lives of others. It is the proverbial state of being able to see the forest instead of the trees. In his early teaching years, Gurudeva cultivated the ability by taking his devotees on pilgrimage each month to the top of a nearby mountain from which they could look down on the cities below. This practice was helpful in developing the skill of perceiving the overview. An example of a typical mental pattern that can be seen and then improved upon is the habit of making a decision to pursue a project, but then giving it up when the first major obstacle is encountered. Ganesha doesn't want me to do this. Maybe he does. Once this tendency to quit is perceived, we can work to create a new habit of persevering in our endeavors, even when faced with obstacles. Second example, tendency to make resolves to increase our spiritual practices, sadhanas, but then relinquishing our commitment after spending time with non-religious friends. This problem can be overcome by spending more time with spiritual friends and less time with naysayers. And again for our Shum scholars, Kamsatcheni, mountaintop perspective, looking from the top of the mountain instead of from the side, a very necessary state to attain in order to proceed further within, while still able to live positively in the conscious mind, looking down from a lofty consciousness, super consciousness. So that's the Shum word for being on top of the mountain. Kamsacheni. Another benefit that comes from living in the eternal now is the ability to turn within and feel the spiritual power within the spine. There is a dynamic force there that, when experienced, gives us renewed inspiration and positiveness. When we are feeling a bit discouraged, we can find new energy and enthusiasm to meet the tasks at hand by quieting our thoughts and tuning in to the spiritual force felt along the spine. And again, for Shum scholars, that's an easy one, Sim Shum BC. Feeling the actinic energy within the spine, the pure life force, yellow in color, flowing through the spine and out into the nerve system. The area 14 strong psychic nerve currents of the superconscious state of mind running along the spinal column. Currents run up the center of the spine. These 14 currents include the Vumche Udi and Karayana, Pingala and Ida in Sanskrit. Term Pingala and Ida in Sanskrit. Central nadi within Simshumbisi is called Shushumna in Sanskrit. When a yogi lives in this current, his consciousness is that of a being, neither man, aggressive, nor woman, passive. And our last slide here on this part. Gurudeva, on the eternal now. Can you visualize yourself right at this instant, balanced on the top of a tall tree? If the tree were to bend too far forward, you would fall to the ground or down into time and thought. If it were to bend too far back, you would again fall. Balanced on the top of this tree, you can look out over the courtyard, look out over the countryside, and enjoy everything you see. But if you stop to think about one thing of the past, you would become so engrossed in what you were thinking about that you again fall to the ground. You find that you cannot live in a thinking consciousness balance so high. Here you live in the eternal now, with great awareness of what is around you and within you, but with no thought on it. Or you're just observing. And our second topic, continuing the series of 64 character qualities from our character building workbook. Still in the C's. Courage is the 14th character quality. How would you define courage? The workbook gives this definition. Courage means having the strength to bravely face life's experiences. I developed this virtue when I cope fearlessly with dangerous, difficult, or painful situations. Its opposite is cowardice. And some wisdom from Gurudeva. Courageous and fearless people who are just and honest prevail over all karmas, benevolent, terrible, and confused. This virtue is much like the monk's vow of humility, part of which is enduring hardship with equanimity, ease of mind, which means not panicking. That's good, don't panic. Next bit of wisdom from Gurudeva. To all Hindus who today are found in every country on the earth, I say, courage, courage, courage. Have the courage to know beyond a doubt that Hinduism is the greatest religion in the world. So more people are saying that these days due to our Hindu resurgence. Hinduism is the greatest religion in the world. Study of yoga is reserved for the few who have the courage to seek the depths of their being, for the few who can overcome their experiences and their desires in deep meditation. It's an interesting type of courage, the courage to seek the depths of their being. And reflection. Take a moment to identify a few ways in which you could improve in courage. And because we added Shum words, took a little extra time there. We're not going to have a third topic. So this is where we're ending. お